Well, you and I have talked about it before. It really comes down to simply money of something that would threaten Roger Goodell's league, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, the truth is, and it's an ugly truth, but it's one that we should acknowledge, is that the league understands something about their fans. Their fans can get over a player being an abuser. Their fans cannot get over a player doing something like the Black Sox scandal and throwing the Super Bowl. Their fans cannot get over players gambling on games, especially that they participate in, but they cannot get over the idea that the games are not on the level, and players participating in gambling gives that sense. That is an ugly, ugly fact, but it is a true fact. It is a fact not so much about the NFL itself, although it is kind of that, so much as the people who watch the NFL, of which I'm one. So I'm not talking from some mountaintop here. And that's the reality of it. And that's why you're going to get punished more seriously for something like this than you are for beating another human being.
Yeah, it actually threatens the existence of the business, especially now that gambling has become such a huge part, legalized, of sports. You think about Deshaun Watson, just to take one example. If all of a sudden fans refused to go to his games and the season ticket sales stopped and nobody bought the jerseys, then things would change. There would have to be a moral reckoning inside the NFL. I feel compelled to make the joke that in terms of the people who were betting on games, 3 were Lions players, and 1 was the Washington Commanders. So there was no chance of any of them making it to the Super Bowl. But I wonder now for the NFL. Okay, now that they've set this bar, right? If 6 games is for gambling, and then you think about Ezekiel Elliott, you think about Tyreek Hill, Deshaun Watson, 11-game suspension, more than 20 women accused him of sexual assault. Ben Roethlisberger, 4-game suspension, 2 women accused him of rape. He's never been charged. Now, really, even if they want to take a moral stand, because of the union agreement, can they, now that they've set the moral equivalency bar?
Yeah, it's very difficult. That actually came up for Deshaun Watson, which is when you have a history of a certain kind of discipline under a collective bargaining agreement, then it can start to look arbitrary or otherwise not in a concert with the agreement to start handing out stiffer sentences. Now, I think that if the NFL really cared about things like domestic and sexual abuse and sexual misconduct generally, if they really cared, they'd just go for it, right? They'd really try. But the fact is that they care as much as their fans make them care. And of course, they have some influence over what their fans care about. And of course, the sports media has some influence over that too. But the bottom line is the NFL doesn't care that much about players being abusers off the field because the fans don't care enough to make the league care. But the league has the sense that the fans really would care, even if the hapless Lions were sitting around in the locker rooms betting on the outcomes of games that they're not good enough to be in. And that's just, it's an ugly reality, but it is reality, isn't it?
Yeah. Let me go one step further. Do they not care because the media gives them a pass on it? I think about the Ben Roethlisberger's, Deshaun Watson's, Tyreek Hill, Ezekiel Elliott, okay? We all saw NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox even go all in, Fox to a lesser extent, but on the network newscast about Me Too and on and on and on and on. But those companies all have huge contracts with the NFL, Sunday Night Football. CBS's NFL contract for Sundays brings in an enormous amount of revenue, some of the most popular shows they have on TV. Fox in the had the Super Bowl this year, huge, one of their most popular things. They also own a number of local television stations that carry the games as well. Is there any incentive for the media to bring up these kinds of issues and hold the NFL responsible?
Yeah, not really. And kind of for exactly the same reason, which is that the media that covers the NFL, ESPN, sports talk radio, stuff like that, that media is consumed by people who, by and large, are fans of the game, who like to watch these games, who have rooting interests for their favorite teams and their favorite players, and they don't want to consume content that makes them feel bummed out about their favorite pastime, about sitting on the couch on Sunday, as I do, and watching football. That kind of content is not appealing to them. And so the media, it's not just a financial relationship with the NFL, although that's obviously substantial. It is also the fact that their own audience does not want them to hold the league's feet to the fire in the way that you're describing, or at least they don't think that their audience wants that. And that is, again, a fact, unfortunately, an ugly one about us, the audience ourselves.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.